Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Energy News Beat podcast. My name's Stuart Turley, President and CEO of the Sandstone Group. Today, I'm recording this podcast on the 21st of January. We've had President Trump in office for less than a day, and he has already issued out 200 executive orders, and we are already feeling the world coming to a right size, and I mean the world is about to just become normal. Today, we have Genevieve Collins, and she's the executive director down there in Texas for the Americans for Prosperity in Texas. And welcome, Genevieve. How are you today?
Stu, I am so much better today being with you. And you are right. The world is full of hope, joy, and ready to get working.
Isn't that great? Now, I've had a couple interviews with you, and I want to give you a shout out because I had so much fun at the Americans for Prosperity with Senator Ted Cruz. Had such a blast. We had R.T. Trevino, we had David Blackman, and we had Steve Reese down there in Texas. And I mean, it was a blast. You put on a show.
Oh, well, thank you. It's only because we have really smart people at this event, really focusing on getting Ted Cruz the message from real people in the industry versus just lobbyists. You know, one of the things that at Americans for Prosperity we try to do is actually help put the people that are closest to the problem, make sure their solutions are the ones that get promoted to the people like politicians like Ted Cruz that can actually solve these problems. So, you know, we think empowering the real person's voice and making sure they have their say is so much more important than just having a lobbyist in Washington, D.C. that says that they know what's going on across the state of Texas.
You know,
we're amazing.
Oh, yes. And you know what? I see yesterday when he who would have ever thought that signing executive orders and throwing the pens out like T-shirts, he almost needed a T-shirt cannon to shoot his pen.
Oh my gosh. Yes, that's hilarious.
And he's sitting there and he's doing all this. But you know what? Those are every one of those is promises kept as he's doing it. And I mean, this is so cool. I would love to do, because one of his campaign speeches is drill, baby, drill. And in Texas, we love that phrase, but it's more drill, baby, when fiscally responsible, because they're giving their money back to their shareholders, and it's going to be a lot of tough. We need help from Lee Zeldin, with the head of the EPA, in order to lower regulations. We need Doug Burgum, and we need Chris Wright. Those three men run on all cylinders. President Trump will meet his commitment to cutting energy costs in half. Now, here's the thought. What do you think we try to get a couple meetings or podcasts with you, Senator Cruz, and any of those guys, and let's make something happen so that they can help get that word out there?
Stu, we have to do that. I mean, I like to think of these three men, Lee Zeldin, Doug Burgum, Chris Wright. They're like the energy Trinity. You know what I mean? And if we make sure that the energy Trinity is supported and, you know, and that they're in front of what's really going on, not just in Texas, but in North Dakota, in Pennsylvania and Ohio, that they're getting in front of the operators, the owners, and the real folks that are helping drill, baby, drill, then we can unleash American energy.
Right.
I always like to say that at least as it pertains to Texas, you know, when Texas is energy dominant, America is energy abundant, and our allies are energy secure.
Say that again. Oh, time out. That is fantastic. Say that again.
When Texas is energy dominant, America is energy abundant, and our allies are energy secure.
Ooh, see, this is what we're all about, is because we're back, baby, when you have President Biden sitting there going, no LNG for you, kind of like the soup Nazi on Seinfeld, no LNG for you. And then you have people like Steve Reese that are now creating, all the way from Texas, the Gulf, a one-stop shop for Germany getting LNG.
Absolutely.
We need those kind of things.
It was so short-sighted, Biden's policy. Not only did it cripple a huge sector of the energy sector, but it crippled our economy and our ability to trade, and more importantly, our ability to get our allies off of Russian energy.
Right.
Cheap, clean, domestic, crude, small, sweet crude oil that we're ready to export. LNG, we're ready to export this. We're ready to make money and make sure our allies have the proper energy
Right.
and are funding the agendas that as allies we believe in, not taking money or not paying for Putin's continued wars. So it's just kind of crazy what the Biden administration does. But the good news is that it is finally over. And, Trump's executive orders, God, he couldn't get them signed fast enough. And I feel like there's such a sense of hope, of joy, and more importantly, there's a genuine sense of this renewed American prosperity, and that the energy
Yes.
sector is going to be a key driver for American prosperity. And after 4 years of Biden inflation, a huge high interest rates, high grocery prices, high gas prices, people are ready for prosperity. And it's just going to be exciting to see this Trump administration deliver.
Speaking of prosperity, the Americans for Prosperity is such a great organization. And when I hear what you guys have done, tell us how your last year went, because you guys have had some tremendous impact in the Texas area, but not only as Texas goes, so goes the nation. So tell us about how you did last year.
Sure. So in Texas, and I can speak for Texas, and I can share a little bit about what we did kind of across the country, since AFP is a nationwide organization. But, in Texas, our federal delegation, there weren't a lot of seats to play in. So the big opportunity was looking at the Texas House of Representatives in Austin and seeing, how do we change, or let me rephrase, how do we move unaligned policy barriers and put in new policy champions that believe in freedom, opportunity, and prosperity? So we engaged in 26 races across the state of Texas. That's in both the primary and the general election. We helped win 22 of those 26 races. Our team knocked down over 603,000 doors across the state of Texas. In addition to making over 300,000 phone calls, we had over 1 million people that we talked to last year. And I think
that's some numbers. I'm sorry for interrupting, but I get excited.
Yeah, me too. But what I'm excited about is that, what we do is different. We don't just do TV ads or radio or digital ads or mail.
Right.
We do the hardest thing possible, which is talking to voters at their doorstep. And I want you to just think about all of the noise that everyone in America experienced last year. Text messages, TV ads, billboards. We were constantly bombarded with this noise about this candidate versus that candidate. And the fact that we spoke to 1 million people in their own homes, we had their uninterrupted attention at their doorsteps, and we're able to talk to people about the candidates that we believe genuinely promote freedom, opportunity, and prosperity. And I know that really tipped the scales, because there's so much
You're describing a perfect
attention.
You're describing outside thinking that got President Trump elected.
Yeah.
That kind of thinking changes politics.
It does. And you have to drive a narrative about candidates, about policy. And I think what people have experienced over the last 4 years, they didn't want just paint me a pretty picture. They haven't lived a pretty picture in their own lives, in their own pocketbooks. So they wanted real, meaningful policy reforms. And while they may not know the ins and outs of deep policy, they know what they would prefer in normal times. And having campaigns drive that narrative while we are at people's front doors driving the same narrative in positive, solutions about specific candidates, it's the perfect winning combination. And we helped change the makeup of the Texas legislature, that folks are going to be for school choice. They're going to be for reducing property taxes. They're going to be for making sure we're not subsidizing wind and solar unnecessarily. Why are taxpayers paying these subsidies when we've got all sorts of other bigger, exciting forms of energy that can do more? We don't need to be subsidizing certain industries.
The Americans for Prosperity is so important right now because ERCOT is expected to double in the next 5 years. In the next 5 years, their energy demand is expected to double. The only way that they can do that, and I went through this, I just wrote a couple articles on this, and the only way that ERCOT can meet that is with natural gas power plants. And when you take a look at the Texas legislature, I backed into how many megawatts it would take for them to keep adding in natural gas to keep going the way it is. And it turns out they're on track to meet what they've got to do. And I'm sitting there, I was trying to prove them wrong, going, hey, look, they're not, wait a minute, they're almost on track. This is kind of cool. Guess how many other states are like that?
Zero?
Exactly. Texas is, I'm going through this with a lot of the other states, and they cannot keep up with demand. So if you are a data center, if you are a really somebody wanting to put a business in manufacturing, come to Texas because the power is there. When you're sitting there and you look at the plans, you look at the number of, because nuclear takes too long. We don't have time. How do you double your grid with a nuclear reactor? You can't. How do you?
We at least have a molten salt reactor in Abilene that got approved from the Nuclear Commission. So that's at least online, and hopefully that'll produce small modular nuclear reactors. May not be in 5 years, but hey, if we get between 5 to 10, that's a huge accelerant. And what's best is that it's in Texas. That yes. Texas gets to lead. I mean, I know for your listeners, everyone from Texas is annoying because we love Texas, but it's true, we do. But if Texas can help create those new guidelines for, how we're adding natural gas to energy production and energy transmission, how we're looking at nuclear and these new technologies, doing it in an incredibly safe way, but also an incredibly optimized way. This is great for the rest of the country because everyone looks to Texas for energy solutions anyway. Right. So if we can do both, walk and chew gum at the same time, heck, no one can stop us.
No. In fact, I got almost teary-eyed when I saw President Trump stop when he was walking in and hug Governor Abbott. Yeah. Wasn't that cool? I was like, go, yay! And we're going to close the border. And I am so proud of Tom and his just immediately. And he's using Texas as oh, by the way, I'm working with these guys. And then you have like the mayor in Denver saying, I'm not going to follow the law. You're like going, hello.
Yeah. I mean, border security is the number one issue, not just in Texas, but across the country. Right. So I give Governor Abbott a tremendous amount of credit for actually sending these illegal immigrants across the country. Because what I initially thought was just great political theater, sending them to Kamala Harris's vice presidential home, right in front, and sending them to New York City and all these sanctuary cities. It's just great political theater. But what it did was actually start sharing the burden, and it became so overwhelming for all of these other cities that every American city and state became a state.
Governor Abbott outplayed me on that one from a standpoint that I did not have that on my bingo card, that we'd sit here and this. And then when I sit back and take a look at Senator Fetterman, I don't want to dress like him. He and I have the same haircut. But I did not have on my bingo card that he would be the most irrational Democrat in Congress. I just did not have that one on there. And then I'm sitting there reading on this and I'm going, that son of a gun is probably going to become a Republican. And it would not surprise me.
Well, first off, you have to know you have more hair. Everyone needs to know you have more hair than John Fetterman. So let's make sure everyone knows that. But secondly, Fetterman's kind of evolution has been fascinating to watch. I think that he is what we would call, an old school or a blue dog Democrat, a Southern Democrat of the year. And
an odd dog, an odd blue dog.
But he's incredibly supportive of Israel. I think that he's demonstrating something that both parties actually need to pay attention to. is that as a senator, you represent the entire state, not just the Democrats or not
I
just the
love that.
Republicans. And he has taken that really to heart and demonstrated that going on Fox News Media, going and talking to conservatives, not just talking to liberal voters. And I think that senators, and not just senators, but every politician needs to remember that their district is not just comprised of one single party. So I give them a lot of credit for critically thinking and giving an example that both parties can look to for reasonability and wholeness.
Do you think that when President Trump annexes Greenland, that we should call that the Northern Texas? And so that we can, as Texans, since I'm a Texas resident, that I should be able to buy my lake house up in Greenland. What do you think?
I think you'd freeze your tail off with property up in Greenland. So, you're going to buy a glacier more than you're going to buy a lake house, Stu, So
I just love President Trump when he's sitting there and he's trolling everybody. And,
I love the Gulf of America, that statement. And
I just bought a shirt.
Watch Clinton laugh out loud. You don't see Hillary Clinton just genuinely laugh. And it was just one of those ones, she caught my eye and she just genuinely was laughing. And I just thought, you guys have no idea who you're dealing with. You guys made Donald Trump, by the way.
There's a little more to that story.
But it just is fabulous. The Gulf of America. I just love everything about it.
Genevieve, there's a little more to that story. And I've got an attorney working on this. And that is when we have our President Biden banning the offshore drilling right before they leave, which is the deep state, because we know Biden can barely even understand when it's time for a depends. I mean, not it depends. It's his depends is full. And so he doesn't know what he's signing. So who signed the offshore ban in our Gulf of America? So that ban says for the Gulf of Mexico.
I did know that. Yep.
And so now all of a sudden, with it being renamed the Gulf of America, I think we need to call it, we can drill. So I'm sitting here thinking Gulf of America is what we need to call it, not Gulf of America. We need to Texify that part and call it the Gulf of America. What do you think?
I am definitely for the Gulf of America. That would certainly fit the SEC, which can't even pronounce an A anyways. And I am a graduate from an SEC school, so I can say that with sincerity. No, but I saw that nomenclature is important, especially in law. If you change the name, well, suddenly the other name is null and void. And so it's a very clever, about face to allow for offshore drilling. And I saw what he did yesterday with executive orders in Alaska as well. So it's just, like I said, Stu, I think that we really we can be excited about the policies, and we should. But I think at a higher level, we also need to remember, we are truly at the precipice of creating genuine prosperity for every American. And we can align on the fact that opportunity and prosperity, the moments have met for each to come to fruition. And we need to be focused on America being prosperous again.
That is so critical. And the education system, and I'm hopeful that when his new person gets his new nominee, she knows how takedowns happen, and I hope she can take down since her husband. She knows how wrestling goes, and so I think that giving it back to the states and having states power gives it back to the people. And seeing Kash Patel, who is going to be reforming the FBI, because the FBI was going after parents at school board meetings. We need those parents in school board meetings, or we need them homeschooling, or we need them involved at the state level. So,
well, think about it like this. Let me go back to my previous statement about America being prosperous.
Right.
If the student population in America currently can't read or do math on grade level, the future is not prosperous, period.
No, I went to Oklahoma State and I can barely read. So, it's just kidding. Okay, sorry.
Being able to empower parents through school choice, being able to empower parents by sending decisions back down to the states and letting the voters in those states really make the most qualified and informed decision for their kids is absolutely going to ensure that the future for American children is prosperous, that there's not only opportunity through choice, whether that's public school, private school, charter school, homeschool, micro learning pods, but we have to think bigger than just this protectionism, public school versus private school.
Right.
This is about prosperity for the future generations, and it's connecting parental empowerment through parent choice, parent freedom, and student opportunity to create a prosperous future for America.
You know, when Jimmy Carter got rid of or created the Department of Education, I don't think anybody really understood how bad it would have gotten us. We've never been the same since.
Yeah, my dad and I joke that the Department of Education is just basically a bank pass-through and has unfortunately also decided to get involved in testing and curriculum. So, it's a very interesting thing. And ultimately, parents are the primary educators of their children. We need to remember that as a society. Yeah. And we need to make sure that parents actually realize the value of their role as the primary educator of their kids. So there's so much good stuff that's about to happen. We in Texas here at AFP, we are in the fight for education savings accounts, universal education savings accounts, which is basically a form of school choice here in the state. And I believe that Texas will pass school choice by May 31st of this year, which Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We're going to pass school choice for the first time in the state of Texas. We have the votes in the Texas House, which is what we've never had. AFP was a huge part of changing the makeup of the House last year to ensure that we have policy champions that believe in parents and believe that students should have the choice to go to the schools that they want or that best fit their needs. But imagine when Texas passes school choice, it is the logjam that breaks for the rest of the nation, that 5 million students in Texas will have eligibility to go to the schools of their choice. This is now, because we have such scale and size, now that Texas can actually help the rest of the country in transformational policy that will allow for more opportunity, more prosperity for parents and families.
If you are a parent and you're sitting in Chicago and you realize that your kids are not going to be able to read, and very much like Dexter Manley. I love Dexter Manley as a person. He was funny. He was a football player at Oklahoma State University, and I was actually asked to help teach him for a class, and he could not read. So the school system failed him. Now he could bench press with 500 pounds of free weight. So unless you're, just work out and all that, and he was great, but boy, unless you can do that, you're going to need an education.
Charles Haley, same thing. He's 5-time Super Bowl champion. Darren Woodson. I mean, you can go through the entire NFL and find countless NFL players that this has happened to. And now these former NFL players are convinced that it is now their job to teach, to make sure that kids aren't passed into other grades. And so, no, but it happens all the time. And, if you're a parent in Chicago, not only did the teachers union shut down Chicago public schools, the third largest school district in the country, for not 1, but 2 years. And last year, there wasn't a single high school, not one, in the entire Chicago public school district. There was not a single high school that had a single student pass high school math.
Wow.
Not one. So we are failing millions of kids and expecting that they can be contributors to society. What are they going to do? Be influencers? Get out of here. We need real jobs. We need people to be qualified to have those jobs. And
I got a favor to ask, though, of anybody moving to Texas. Okay. Leave your voting practices behind, please. Now, you're helping people and talking to people in their homes. You're also encouraging getting local and helping with those kind of things. That to me, when I was visiting with you last year on some of those, that's like this is grassroots redefined in the modern age. I mean, it really is.
Well, Stu, you're 100% right, and thank you. What that really means is that I don't sleep. But what we really are trying to do is elevate real people's voices, that grassroots matters. And it's not that grassroots is full of a bunch of crazy people. It's that grassroots is about putting people that are closest to the problem, allowing their voices to be heard to solve the problems. And we are able to do that at scale.
Well, Genevieve, how do people get in touch with you?
Go to our website. It's called freedomisbigger.com. You can sign up to become an ambassador. And what that means is that you are an evangelist of Texas. You can also go on our website, freedomisbigger.com, and sign petitions. We have petitions that are on energy, taxes, healthcare, school choice, regulations. And you can sign petitions, and we will send petition letters directly to your member of Congress or your state legislator. Wow. Your elected officials will get petitions. And I just want to encourage people, your voice matters. And so find us at freedomisbigger.com. You can find me at Twitter at gcollinstx. And I look forward to talking with you.
Oh, that's so fantastic. I'll tell you what, let's follow up and see if we can't get Ted Cruz visiting with Chris Wright, Lee Zeldin, and Doug Burgum. They're going to be all incredibly busy, but I know that we have enough talented people that would love a few minutes to talk to them. And I know that they would definitely, those men can get the things done. And by the way, how much money did Ted Cruz's opposition throw at that past election? That was horrible.
Ted Cruz's opposition was embarrassed. That's all I'm going to say about that.
I gotta hand it to Senator Cruz for winning again, but I'll tell you, that was just absolutely despicable how much money. And was it Colin Allred? His ads made me airsick. And I'm going to go on record. Do not ever run again in Texas, because if you lie that bad, you do not deserve a position in political office.
Well said, my friend.
I tried to keep the swear words out, but thank you, Genevieve, for stopping by. I appreciate you.
Oh, I so value your friendship and everything. And congratulations on your podcast. And thank you for educating people about the need of energy, not just in Texas, but across America. So love and appreciate.
Thank you, Genevieve. Hey, look forward to seeing you. Thanks.